Welcome to the Cinemondo podcast. It is the Halloween season.
Yay! I love October because we get to see so many horror movies come out, and you don't get shamed for liking horror movies, and everybody wants to talk about horror movies, and that is the best time.
And you know, there's been a bazillion vampire films, and people still come up with a new twist on them.
That's right.
New ways to portray a vampire or to use a vampire in a story. But then there's these old tropes of vampires that go all the way back to the early days of cinema, and obviously before that, in books like Dracula and whatnot. But
that little book called Dracula.
Yeah, but the early days of cinema, for some reason, there's a movie called Vampire, there's Nosferatu, and there's an appeal to that sort of gothic, the gothicness of the vampire, the sort of traditional vampire, I guess. We've seen the modernization of it with the Stephen King, Salem's Lot type things, but to go back to the old sort of gothic version of a vampire, I think is what the intent is of this film.
Also, just as an aside, I loved horror and Nosferatu and Dracula stuff so much that when I got married, Burk made a vampire movie for me that we showed on the silent movie theater. We got to see this beautiful black and white Nosferatu based film.
That's right.
We get to star in it. It was very cool. And there will be a link to it in our YouTube channel.
Yeah, you can see Kathy acting
Wedding of the Vampire in my silent film days.
And it's based on the silent movie, which was an early Nosferatu, which is an early film, an early example
legend
of film. And it still holds up, I think. Watch it. Check it out. Don't think it's some boring, weird old movie. It's actually really beautiful. And yeah, the little wedding film I wouldn't call beautiful, but it is kind of.
It was beautiful.
It was
a beautiful film. It had incredible actors in it. It was amazing.
I tried to make it as good as I could, but this one I think is probably a little bit better. Probably has a higher budget and might be scarier.
Might be scarier. All right, so we're gonna check this out. It's Robert Eggers, who I've loved all his other films. He did The Lighthouse. He did Witch, which I love. So he's an incredibly talented filmmaker. So I cannot wait to see what he'll do with Nosferatu. This should be great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with this film with such an enigmatic and quirky director.
I know, exactly. All right, let's do it.
And
come to me. Come to me.
Almost.
I've never shared my secret with any soul.
You've had these spells since childhood. Tell me what you can from the beginning.
It is like a dream. It was our wedding. When we turned around,
the sound effect.
Everyone was dead. The stench of their bodies was horrible. Standing before me was death. But I'd never been so happy.
Oh shit, that's great.
This creature is a force more powerful than evil. Its desire is to consume all life on Earth. Only you can redeem us. He is coming.
Oh.
Christmas movie.
I love it.
There is a devil in this world, and I have met him.
Nicholas Hoult, I
You
love.
could never please me as he could.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm ready.
Holy shit. Okay.
Well, that looks really cool.
Wow. Okay. I love the bookend of the cool tone, almost black and white cinematography that kind of bookends in between, a lot warmer. It seems like there's like sort of the beginning, the death scene, like she's having sort of that death fantasy. I love where she's describing this horrifying things. She goes, I've never been happier.
Yeah.
That's so great. And then to have at the end, we go back to the black and white, which was great. So you're kind of in a way seeing her vampire hypnotism moments in the cool tones, which is a great cinematic trick. And he does great black and white stuff.
Yeah, and composition, like the tones, like you're saying, like desaturated, but maybe more towards monochromatic as a it's not as desaturated. It's not like regular color desaturated.
Yeah.
It's like he's pushing certain colors into those old film treatments. You know, I know it's digital probably, but in the old days, when they, in the chemical film days, they used to have to do chemical treatments to get certain color balances. Like the Matrix had a kind of bluish, that ice blue kind of, and they would do things with like bleach and different chemicals to take out certain colors. And it has the look of that film process, which is really nice. Yeah. So it does look kind of old school color process, the color balancing and and that kind of thing. But also his cinematographers, great, the staging of it, the composition, the curtains on one side and her sort of floating on the other side and things like that. These setups, the beautiful setups.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, it just looks really cool. It looks like and unusual too. What it reminded me of in a way, but it seems different, is the Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula that came out with Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
I love that movie. Gary Oldman,
it's very unique stylistically because of how they the wardrobe and the styling for Gary Oldman as Dracula was very unique and crazy.
Yes.
I loved that.
Yeah, and Gary Oldman, you can't.
Gary Oldman,
hard to beat that. But his performance as Dracula was so great, and so creepy and so pushed. It was into that sort of melodrama of the silent films and the Gothic era. Those, the intense romance of the vampire and that idea. This one seems like it's got some of that, but it's darker and dirtier. It's like a dirtier version of that romance of the vampire, because I don't know if we saw the vampire in this. I don't know if
I'm wondering. Yeah, I wonder about that too, because I know Bill Skarsgård is in the cast, but we didn't see him. So I'm wondering, as always, Bill Skarsgård plays like the villain, and I just love that gorgeous shot of her. It looked like almost like an old photograph where she's at the window and you're the blowing curtain as earlier. And she has this perfect dress, this white dress. She's standing in there just perfectly. It just almost looked like a sculpture. It was this gorgeous shot. Like, oh my God. Just fantastic cinematography. And then it kind of desat and it gets warmer and warmer toward the middle. And then goes back to the cool. Like, it's almost like life to death. It's like, oh, loved it.
And you got Willem Dafoe in there, looking like Willem Dafoe, who's so great. He is such a classic presence, and he's got that gravitas,
That's right.
But there's two different kinds of vampires. If you look at that old silent film Nosferatu, he was a weird looking bald thing with pointy ears and sharp little rat teeth and the long fingernails. And I mean, it's very clear that he is up to no good. He's a dead monster, undead thingy.
That's right.
But then there's the Dracula type character, which you know, with Bela Lugosi played this guy who was very classy and
gotta make him seductive.
Yeah, and then you know Frank Langella. There's this history of good-looking Dracula.
They get him better looking as we go.
Right, and Gary Oldman was cool looking when he was not a rat monster.
Yeah.
You know, but he was.
So I'm looking at the cast. Bill Skarsgård is Count Orlok.
Okay,
Yeah,
Count Orlok is the Nosferatu.
Emma Corrin is Anna Harding. Willem Dafoe is Professor Albin Franz, and then Nicholas Hoult is Thomas Hutter. So we talk about in terms of Dracula because we're more familiar with Dracula, which is kind of, you know, they've kind of converged both of these types of movies and legends and stories, so that really Nosferatu is Dracula, is Nosferatu is Dracula. It's like so. We have all these characters. You have the woman who's being hypnotized and wants to be with Dracula or Orlok. We have the people around who are trying to figure out what's the bigger implications. How do we destroy this evil? And then, you know, from there we go to who's going to win? Dracula. He always does. Right.
But they're kind of all based on the Dracula story in the way, because you got the Renfield type of character in there. I think they all kind of have a little bit of that, but in Dracula, in the classic Dracula, it was, you know, the guy goes over there and meets Dracula and has a weird experience in Dracula's house with Dracula. And then he sees her beloved, you know, the picture of her in, you know, he's got a picture of his beloved and Dracula is like, oh, I must have her. So he travels across the ocean, and you know that's basically the story. But then the Nosferatu story I think is similar, kind of similar. They just sort of tweaked it and changed it a little bit, and but yeah, it looks like this is going to be sort of like the ugly vampire type of thing.
And this was way better than the teaser. Like when I first saw the teaser, it felt a little choppy. It wasn't quite ready. It seemed like they just wanted to get something out. And it didn't feel nearly as polished. This looks stunning. This looks like what I expect from Robert Eggers. So now I'm super excited. And I love this. It's going to be a big event Christmas movie. That means they believe in it. So we're going to see some really good stuff. I think I'm very excited.
I think so. And one vampire that I have to mention is one of my favorite films is called Blood for Dracula, played by Udo Kier, who I think was a good looking Dracula character, but in a weird way. You don't want to get too close to him. And he was, it's kind of almost comical. There's a bit of comedy to it.
It's campy. It had a little camp.
Very
factor.
campy and pushed. You know, it's also known as Andy Warhol's Dracula.
But
directed by Paul Morrissey. But I recommend that movie to people who may think
it's unusual.
It's like some goofy thing that Andy Warhol made, you know. But no, it's a Paul Morrissey film, and Udo Kier is incredible in it. Everybody is. It's just
he was really good.
Yeah.
I like where he just couldn't find a virgin. That was the whole problem, is he couldn't find virginal blood, and that was a problem.
Right. We have to go to a small village where there are lots of virgins.
It was virgins. So we have a quick poster for this. It's more of a teaser. Nice. So we're not really seeing, like, I don't know if this is Orlok or is it just like kind of, it looks a little creepy. I don't know what's happening here, but very mysterious.
Yeah.
So there it is. All right.
Looks pretty cool. I'm definitely going to see this movie. It looks like a classic film. It looks like, from the trailer, it looks like there's a lot going on in this film. There's a lot of different scenes in the trailer that, like, wow, what is that scene? And the rats in the street, and this crazy possessed looking person with their back breaking or whatever, and all these different scenes. It looks like there's a lot in this film.
Yes. So let us know what you think. Do you have a favorite Dracula or Nosferatu film or vampire film? Don't say
vampire. Yeah.
So let us know what you think, and we'll catch you guys next time. Be sure to subscribe, like, and comment.
Bye, everybody.